and welcome back into the Fever, where each week George and I will go into the weekend's games and make our picks. As always, you can follow some of the games this weekend on the AJ Kajak scoreboard at LoneStarVarsity.com and catch some of the replays of the favorite games on LISD TV. And George, we talked to Coach Mike Speck, who's confident about this Westerner team, but they're going to have a challenge playing Friendship in that first contest Thursday night.
Yeah, it's an interesting contrast that we talked with Coach Speck about. He's got the more experienced team coming back, and I think overall maybe in a lot of spots maybe the more talented team coming back. But then you've got Friendship, which they've lost a lot of guys. They've got to replace 11 starters on defense and 8 of their backups. So they've had a lot of work to do there. But at the same time, Friendship is one of those where they're the more established program. And you talk when you talk about tradition and bringing guys up from through the junior varsity and on through that. So it'll be interesting to see that contrast. Conventional wisdom would tell you that with the talent coming back, that Lubbock High would be favored in this game. But when you've got the tradition and the talent that Friendship does, I think I got to kind of go with Friendship in this opening game.
I would agree. I just think. They've got a talented offensive line, led by Walters, who we've talked about before, and I think that'll give them a chance to do more with their passing game, hopefully, this year.
Yeah.
Monterey, next game coming up, they're going to take on Plainview. What do you see happening in that one?
Monterey is one of those teams that I think is at an interesting crossroad here. They're used to being there in the district race and being the district champion, but for the last couple of years, they haven't been able to reach that level. They've kind of, and it's not like they've been bad or they've fallen off. They finished second, and have been a good playoff team, the whole time that James Morton has been there, but they haven't, been that district champion that they're used to. And so this is an interesting year for them in the fact that they've got the team that they're picked second right now behind Odessa Permian in that big district, and they're the most likely challenger to the Panthers going into the season. But they've got to get off to a good start, and you've got a Plainview team that is coming off a really, there's no really other way to say it, a really bad year for them last year, and a really unexpectedly bad year. Plainview is one of the more traditional, successful teams on the South Plains as well, and they went 1-9 last year. Just a rough season all around for the Bulldogs. I think they'll be better. They've got some talent in, and I think they're determined to prove that last year was a fluke. But I think with having seen Monterey in their scrimmage the other day, I saw some good things out of Monterey and saw some good balance. Really liked how Sam Teague ran the offense with that option. So I think that in this opening game, I think the edge has got to go with Monterey.
Yeah, I think Monterey is just going to be a strong team this year. Like you said, someone who can challenge Permian for that district title. And then another one, Shallow Water, already gotten a curveball thrown so far this year, but will they be okay in that first game with Scape just having limited experience so far at quarterback?
I think it'll probably be a little bit of a struggle. It's like Coach Faye said yesterday. They just haven't gotten the reps. With Jordan Scaff there under quarterback, and so they're behind a little bit. And they're going up against a Brownfield team which has been on the rise the last couple of years. Coach Kevin Pittman's team has really kind of turned a corner and become one of the better teams in the South Plains. I think they went 8-2 in the regular season last year. Made the playoffs, and they've got a good 1-2 tandem in the backfield with Chris Davis and Cody Dixon back there. So being at Brownfield and with some of the curveballs that Shallow Water's, like you said, has gotten thrown, I kind of got to go with Brownfield in this opener.
And then going on to 3-2A, Post and Sundown coming up. And, obviously Post doesn't seem like the strongest team in the district, but they're a team who can sneak up on people. But Sundown just seems like they have the right chemistry to get to a state championship this year.
Absolutely. You mentioned Post will be there at the end, fighting for a playoff spot. I'm confident in that. But they've got a new coach, in Post. Coach James is gone. So they've got a new coaching staff, new offense, new schemes they're having to learn. And I don't know if they could pick a tougher 118 to have to open with than Sundown, like you mentioned, between, with the Durham and Heffley and all that talent they've got at Sundown. And I think Sundown, after last year, after losing to Monday in the semifinals 47-0, I think they're really on a mission. So I would look for Sundown to come out on top in this one.
Is there any type of a hangover that they could possibly have from the postseason last year?
I don't think so. I think, like you mentioned, 47-0 will sober you up pretty quick. So I don't think there's going to be any problem with the hangover. I think it's going to be more motivation than anything. So I think Sundown will come in focused and ready to go. And it's one of those deals when you've got that much talent coming in, you just kind of pick up where you left off last year. You don't have to really do a whole lot of teaching or anything like that. You just kind of pick up and you're able to add some things and make yourself a little bit more diverse and a little bit better.
I like Sundown too. Big Spring, obviously another game coming up. What do you see happening in that one?
The Steers are interesting. Coach Trey Ritchie last year is gone. He's moved up into administration, and his brother Philip Ritchie is now the head coach. So it'll be interesting to see if they keep a lot of the same things and do a lot of the same things that Trey Ritchie did. But then they're going up against a Snyder team, which was another one of our big, that went deep in the playoffs. But Coach Chad Rogers, he's got to replace Will Clay, their sensational running back. They've got to replace quarterback Lance Day. Brent Bollinger is gone, but he's got a lot of guys there that are still there. Look for Chase Arundel, who Coach Rogers actually said, when they were a sophomore, actually beat out Will Clay for the starting spot, but then got injured, and so Will Clay stepped in, and the rest, as they say, is history. But I think Chase Arundel's ready to assume his position. Then you've got a great defense with two guys that I think are going to be great in Kenneth Turner and Clay Hurt there on the defense. Appropriate name for a defensive guy is Hurt, spelled differently, but pronounced the same. So I would look for Snyder. Even though they've got more holes to fill, probably I would look for Snyder to come out and take care of business.
I like Big Spring in that one, but another one, we talked a little bit about 2-2A, Muleshoe being in that district and maybe trying to make some moves. They're going to have to start off with a little bit of a contest in this first one for Westwood. Yeah,
I think this may be one of the more competitive games on the schedule in the South Plains. Muleshoe going to Levelland. Levelland's got a good mix of guys coming back, and they're in the third year of Ryan Rhodes' system there. And, so they're really starting to make some strides. They made a couple strides last year, got into the playoffs, and I know they're looking to take the next step. But then you've got Muleshoe that is the traditional power, but they've got to replace, some of the guys that have made that offense go the last couple of years. But the one thing that David Wood can do at Muleshoe and always has been able to do is coach defense. So, while the offense is coming along, I would look for the defense to really kind of carry the ball, so to speak, for Muleshoe. And I would expect maybe a 21-14 game while that offense is kind of getting into gear. But I think Muleshoe will come out on top.
Estacado getting their first taste after dropping down in class, but they're going to travel to play Hereford this weekend.
Yeah, I think Hereford may end up being one of the bigger secrets on the South Plains out here. Not many people are talking about Coach Don DeLozier's team, but he's got a great quarterback coming back in Parker Bridwell. He's got a good running back in Nathan LaSala. And some really good talent all around on both sides of the ball. At the same time, you've got Estacado coming in, with Kyle Jackson, like we mentioned, Dondre Matthews, anchoring that defense, and a lot of talent that is ready and primed to take the next step as well. So it'll be interesting to see. I think this is one of those games where turnovers are really going to play a key role, and right now, if I had to go off the top of my head, I would not be surprised to see Estacado win that game, going on the road and going to Hereford and taking care of business.
I would agree. I think Jackson's going to be a solid quarterback this weekend, throughout the entire season for that matter. And so hopefully he'll be able to do some things in that first game and show what they're capable of doing after dropping down.
Absolutely. And he's got to find some new talent, some new receivers to throw to. Jeremy Watson, who we all just enjoyed watching last year, and some of the things he's done is now up at West Texas A&M. Actually found out I think he had knee surgery right after the All-Star game, so he's going to redshirt this year for WT and be ready to go next year. But they've got some great talent coming back at receiver, and DJ Williams and Brylan Bradford and Javon Anderson, who I think are all ready to kind of take the next step and become the next Jeremy Watson out there.
Roosevelt joining that group in 3-2A. They're going to take on Floydada this weekend. So who do you see coming out in that contest?
Roosevelt is another one of those teams that's got a new coach, Greg Pointer, coming over from Muleshoe, who he had been the defensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator at Clovis, I believe it was, and then the defensive coordinator at Muleshoe before coming over. But he's got the offensive and defensive mind needed, and he's stepping in and installing that spread there at Roosevelt. He has what he thinks is a solid quarterback in Corey Warnock, and some good talent around him. Kobe Torres, who was there as a sophomore, went to Cooper as a junior, is now back at Roosevelt as a senior, and I think he's going to be able to handle the running game. But when you talk about running game, you talk about Floydada. You've got Aaron Flores, one of the top talents in the area, and what he was able to do for Floydada. So in a match like this, where you've got a lot of newness with Roosevelt, and they're trying to install a system, and you've got an establishment in Floydada, and they're being at home, I think Floydada comes out on top in this one.
That's all we got for now in this episode of Football Fever. Big thanks again to Coach Speck for dropping by the studios. Thanks to LISD TV for providing us with this. You can catch all your episodes on LISD TV, and you can also catch them on LoneStarVarsity.com. For George, I'm Travis Cram. We'll see you next week. Catch the Fever.